Is embryology topic, that is cleavage and implantation and abnormal sites of implantation. So the competencies that are covered in this are cleavage and formation of blastocyst. The unfertilized ovum reaches the ampulla of the uterine tube and it is fertilized in 12 to 24 hours and a zygote is formed. During its passage through the uterine tube until the end of morular stage, the egg undergoes almost no change in volume or size and is about 150 micrometers. And this egg, which is fertilized, is surrounded by zona pellucida, which it loses on entering uterine cavity. During its passage, the egg maintains itself on its own reserves. And there are only few reserves which are reduced because it is an elicithal egg, that is with less reserves. So it will be utilizing tubular secretions. So in the picture we can see the zygote going to form the blastula. So in 30 hours it will be forming 2 cells and it will be forming about 8 cells in 60 hours. Then the morula is formed and the morula is converted into blastula. So cleavage is mitotic cell division. Division of zygote into 2 daughter cells. The daughter cells are called blastomeres. So 2 daughter cells are produced in 30 hours. And 4 blastomeres are seen in about 40 to 50 hours. And by 8 hours, the number of cells by 8 cells are seen around 60 hours and 12 to 16 blastomeres are seen between 3rd to 4th day. The blastomeres numbering 12 to 16 appear like a solid ball resembling that of a mulberry. So this is called as morula, and this morula enters into uterine cavity. So this is blastocyst formation. About 4th day, fluid from uterine cavity starts entering into the morula. And it is first in the intercellular spaces. Then the fluids filled spaces fuse to form a large cavity that is called as blastocele. So in the picture you can see a large cavity is formed that is called as blastocele. And now because of the blastocele, presence of blastocele, this morula is now called as blastocyst. As fluid increases, the cells which are there in the egg separate into 2 major areas. One is the outer cell layer that is called as trophoblast. You can see the trophoblast surrounding the egg, and this trophoblast give rise to placenta. And we can also see a centrally placed group of cells that is called as inner cell mass, or also called as embryoblast, and this embryoblast gives rise to embryo proper. The free blastocyst is seen in uterine cavity on the 4th day, and after that there is disappearance of zona pellucida. Now we discuss another competency, that is development of trophoblast. The implantation begins first with the adherence of the blastocyst to the uterine epithelium. The blastocyst then invades deep into the uterine wall. The penetration of the uterine epithelium is done by multinucleated epithelium called as syncytiotrophoblast. In the picture we can see that first the blastocyst gets opposed to uterine epithelium, then adhesion occurs, followed by invasion. So invasion is by syncytiotrophoblast. And it was observed that the human placenta is the most invasive type of placenta. The trophoblastic cells invade inner third of myometrium and also the maternal vasculature. Syncytiotrophoblast. Before this, initially, there was mononucleated cytotrophoblast. And this mononucleated cytotrophoblast fuse into multinucleated syncytiotrophoblast. And this syncytiotrophoblast will be covering the villi. And the villi are surrounded by maternal blood. Syncytiotrophoblasts are primarily involved in releasing pregnancy-related hormones. Apart from that, they also help in the exchange of nutrients and waste products between the mother and the fetus. So in this picture we can see the anchoring villi, which are having cytotrophoblast. Outside that there is syncytiotrophoblast, and anchoring villi, which is attached to the uterine epithelium. You can see some of the cells which are getting apart from the villi. See, these are called extravillous trophoblasts. Not only extravillous trophoblasts, you can see some of the interstitial trophoblasts and also endovascular trophoblasts. So coming to cytotrophoblasts, so they proliferate and they form the anchoring villi, and through that they get attached to uterine wall. Then from the cell columns of these anchoring villi, extravillous trophoblasts form and they get detached from the placental villi and they migrate into the decidua, that is the maternal portion of the placenta. And there is also a subset of interstitial trophoblasts which migrate into deeper layers of maternal endometrium and also into inner third of myometrium, thereby anchoring the fetus to the mother. There is also another subset of extravascular trophoblast. These are endothelial-like characteristics, and become endovascular trophoblasts. These endovascular trophoblasts, they penetrate the uterine spiral arteries and replace maternal endothelial cells. So in this picture you can see the endovascular extravilous trophoblasts. They have invaded the spiral arteries and replaced maternal endothelium with endovascular extravilous trophoblasts. In this way, the uterine spiral arteries are remodeled into low resistance, high capacity uteroplacental arteries, and these provide increased blood flow towards the placenta, which is needed to meet the requirements of the growing fetus. So in this picture you can see the spiral arteries where the endothelium is replaced by endovascular extravilous trophoblasts and remodel the spiral arteries. Any preeclampsia, dysregulation of trophoblast activities, especially the defect of invasion of extravascular trophoblasts into the uterus, and the subsequent failure of remodeling of the maternal spiral arteries is the key mechanism that underlie the development of a pregnancy disease that is called as preeclampsia. In preeclampsia, which is a pregnancy-associated disorder, it is characterized by hypertension and proteinuria. Then we come to the process of implantation and the common abnormal sites of implantation. Normal implantation is important for successful pregnancy. Implantation occurs around 6 to 7 days after the conception. Trophoblast implants in the upper portion of the uterus. The invasion, it is by invasion into endometrium. There are risk factors. So risk factors include any factors that may lead to damage and scarring of endometrium. It can be previous cesarean delivery or prior dilatation and curettage, or earlier abortion, or history of abnormal placentation. In primary gravity, there can be endometriosis or assisted conception. These can be risk factors. Or increased number of prior cesarean section deliveries is also a risk factor. So types of abnormal placentation. Placenta may end. There is one condition called as low-lying placenta that ends 2 centimeters away from internal os but does not cover it. Most commonly, the placenta implantation occurs in the uterine fundus, followed by implantation in the anterior wall and then by posterior wall. Types of abnormal placentation, that is low-lying placenta, are mostly diagnosed ultrasonographically in the second trimester. They normally resolve by the third trimester. When they persist, it becomes a risk factor for postpartum hemorrhage. Different from placenta previa, vaginal delivery is possible with low-lying placentas. So in the picture you can see placenta normal, then placenta previa partial, and placenta previa total. Then we have one condition called as placenta previa. Placenta previa is defined as placenta with complete or partial obstruction of the internal cervical os. Therefore, being previous to the delivering fetus. That is, the placenta is in front of the delivering fetus. It is a major cause of third trimester bleeding. Apart from that, there can be severe maternal morbidity that includes hemorrhage, then disseminated intravascular coagulation, and also requiring emergency hysterectomy. Placenta previa can also lead to fetal brain damage, then cerebral palsy. So, the increased occurrence of placenta previa is observed in women with advanced maternal age, multiparity, prior cesarean delivery, and placenta previa in prior pregnancy. Abnormal sites of implantation. The majority of ectopic pregnancies occur in fallopian tube. Only less than 5% ectopic pregnancies occur in other areas. That can be cervix, ovary, peritoneal cavity, or even the scar of the cesarean delivery. Abnormal sites of implantation, that is, despite advanced treatment, ectopic pregnancy remains the leading cause of first trimester maternal death. And the risk of maternal mortality in abdominal pregnancy is 8 times higher than that of other types of ectopic pregnancies because of risk of hemorrhage. Then coming to ectopic pregnancy, it is an uncommon implantation site that can pose diagnostic challenges in everyday practice. Because there are no specific clinical signs, symptoms, laboratory tests to alert the doctors to the possibility of these uncommon presentations. And ultrasonography plays a vital role in the diagnosis of ectopic pregnancy. Thank you.